ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Thursday, July 3rd. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann, and my text line is open, and we're going to do that right now. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. It's brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. We appreciate them for that. So we've got the entire hour for you. It's also our final show of the week. Tomorrow, Independence Day, so happy 4th of July early to everyone. We've got Cold Cats baseball coming up tomorrow. We'll go on the air with that at 3:45, and then there are going to be fireworks at the ballpark after. So if you don't already have your tickets, get them now so you can be a part of baseball tomorrow and Independence Day, and, of course, fireworks as well. And there'll be fireworks downtown tonight, part of Dog Dazzle, so that's coming up tonight as we get set and started for the Independence weekend. So how is everyone today? I know everyone's running around getting ready for the holiday weekend, so hopefully we can get you through the next hour wherever you're at. I want to get into more about the Sun Belt, trying to figure out what the game plan is going to be. There's been more reporting on that also. We've got a couple of other interesting tidbits to get into and some things we didn't get a chance to talk about yesterday. I know that it's probably too soon to really talk about the criminal cases. I'm sorry, it feels like a criminal case. It's probably too soon to talk about the case between Marshall and Pitt. Boils down to, are there damages to be recovered from Pitt, as the game between Marshall and the Pitt Panthers did not play? COVID-19, that was a really difficult time a few years ago for all of us. And, of course, it really impacted sports as well. Different leagues handled it differently. Of course, Pitt did not come to Huntington, and that would have been a huge revenue game, I'm sure, for Marshall. And, of course, Marshall now wanting that revenue and wanting those damages. So this is going to trial. I don't know which side's going to have the stronger case, but this is one of the few cases that I've heard about resulting in a lawsuit between two parties after COVID-19. For the most part, I thought it was pretty much understood that everyone was operating under a different set of rules. And, of course, a contract's a contract, right? I would think that there could have been some resolution to this. For example, Pitt could have just said, look, we'll make this game up for you. But it didn't want to do that. And so I think that's where this lawsuit really is picking up steam and has gotten to this point now. This could have been rectified simply by, okay, we'll schedule a redate, a make-up date. We'll do that, and then we'll get this off our backs, because we don't know what Marshall football is going to look like in several years down the road. We don't know what Pitt football is going to look like. It could have been a competitive matchup, could have been a blowout, who knows. But this is not a way to really build a relationship between athletic departments. How many matchups in the future might this cost Marshall and Pitt and many sports, including soccer? I think of soccer as one, of course. Football is probably the big one right here. So we'll touch on that if we have time, but I really do want to talk about Sun Belt expansion news a little bit more. That seems to be where we're at right now. Also, some good news today. The preseason publications continue to give us their all Sun Belt Conference teams, and no first-teamers, a couple of third-teamers and a second-teamer on Athlon Sports all Sun Belt team. Jalen Slappy makes second team, Jadarius Green McKnight third team, and Toby Payne makes third team as well. So that's Athlon's preseason all Sun Belt Conference team. These are nice honors. It's great to be recognized, and a lot of this comes from what you did last year and what you're expected to do this year. So it's a nice honor to have, and you always want to take the publicity and the press. But in this day and age, how accurate are these things going to be? And honestly, I don't know if you can even assign accuracy to it. Jalen Slappy might be a first-teamer in your mind, and he's regarded as a second-teamer according to Athlon. Is that going to change? He might have an outstanding season, but again, he might not make second team at all. He might make third team. Who knows? It's so subjective these days. So everybody can have a preseason all Sun Belt Conference team. Do you take much stock in these preseason publications? And know that we've gone down this road before, but it's worth revisiting. Every year, the publications come out. It's almost from a bygone era where once upon a time, before this thing called the internet, we would all rush out and get the preseason magazines. And, I might still pick up a couple of them. There's some interesting information there that, maybe will help flesh out some things. And for me, it's more, okay, I want to learn about some of the other teams. I don't usually use it for Marshall, but what's an item or two that I can learn about some of the other teams? And so they have some value. But now we're in a situation where everything is thrown out there lightning quick on X and other social media outlets. A lot of it's wrong, obviously. Anyone can post anything at any time, and sometimes we get a lot of misinformation spread out there, rumors amplified into false narratives. You know the deal. But the magazine used to be this interesting piece of literature because we didn't have an opportunity to get on the internet. I mean, my internet experiences began with CompuServe, for those of you that are old, or Prodigy. AOL was much bigger at the time, and so you would just reach out for any piece of information about college football, and here it is. Of course, then again, ESPN was probably one of the bigger sources at the time, a true 24/7 sports network when 24/7 sports was a thing. And I don't know how much stock you put into these things anymore, these magazines, and what the true value is. I mean, obviously, they're still printing and they're still making money. They have to be, and you always get the special cover. You get covers depending on what edition: Big Ten edition, the SEC edition, the ACC edition. Of course, there will not be a Sun Belt edition, not to my knowledge. But you would always go out and, depending on where you were, you would always get the cover. Okay, it's the Big East edition. Here's the Mountaineers on the cover, because there wasn't a Southern Conference edition, or there wasn't a Conference USA edition targeting the. And of course I would avoid that. I would get the Big Ten edition or the SEC edition. So my choices for covers were Kentucky, Ohio State. Or I could get the Big East edition and get the Mountaineers on it. Or, Virginia Tech. There was those options as well. Not necessarily always. And I would just, no, I'm not buying the edition with the Mountaineers on it. That was young me. Now it's like, okay, I don't care. I need the magazine. Let me buy that. The cover's just a cover. But a younger version of me would have just said, no, I'm not touching that. Not happening here. I guess that's what happens when we go from decades to decades, and just, what I do now completely different from where I was as a kid. Absolutely not. And of course, again, I'm of that era that had these schedule posters where you could actually fill in the wins and losses and the scores. Do you remember those? You could actually fill in on the Marshall basketball schedule the wins and losses, and I would just keep track. I'd have that thing up on my door. And I would listen to Marshall games on the radio. I mean, funny, I should say that, because at the time you didn't have ESPN Plus, not necessarily, were all the games on television. So if you wanted to follow the herd, you'd actually have to listen to the radio. So I'd listen to those Marshall games on the radio, and I'd fill in the score, and I'd have complete record of everything right there on my wall. So I knew what was going on with the herd just by looking at that poster. 304-396-TALK is our text line, 304-396-8255. I do miss those days. I miss those kind of posters as well. Everything's stylish now, and I get it. But I miss the schedule poster that had the uber detail on it, Like, I could fill out the wins and losses and put the score in on the schedule poster. I guess we're not going to see those anymore. At least that's a throwback that I'd like to see come back. We'll get into more with you. Sunbelt expansion. Do you stay at 13? Do you move to 14? Do you shoot up to 16? We'll talk about it with you when we continue on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're definitely going to be late to the concert. I feel like we should be there by now.
I'm just taking a little detour. I gotta fill up my gas tank, and I know this place a couple towns over where the gas is cheaper.
Are you serious? We're going to be late for the concert because you're driving out of the way for cheaper gas? Just use Upside.
What's Upside?
Upside is the free cashback app that gets you real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait, I can get cash back just for buying the gas I need anyway?
Yes, I use it all the time, and I've made around $200. Now pull over so you can download the Upside app before we miss the concert.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code SEAT25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank, PayPal, or as a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code SEAT25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code SEAT25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's code SEAT25.
We're back with Chris from Christopher's Eats. Chris, let's talk drinks.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got old fashions, sangrias, margaritas, pretty much mastered the classics for you.
But you don't stop there. The seasonal cocktails at Christopher's, they are amazing.
You bet. Our bar team is awesome and love to create new concoctions. We've always got something new for you with fresh local ingredients, some bold flavors, always some surprises too.
So whether you want your go-to or something different, you've got options at Christopher's Eats, Route 60 Huntington.
In 1776, America declared its independence. Since 1979, K&B Pest Control has helped homeowners and businesses in Ohio and West Virginia declare their independence from pests. K&B Pest Control, we will kill for your business.
Injured in a car wreck? Tom Boggs is here for you in Huntington, and he's brought the expertise of Warner Law Offices with him.
Call 345-6789.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We continue on with today's edition of The Drive, getting set for your Independence weekend. Plenty of time for you, however, to kick it off with the text line. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So yesterday we talked about how Sunbelt executives held meetings to talk about expansion, but a decision wasn't imminent. The conversation has circled back and forth, Louisiana Tech. Also, there's some discussion about Middle Tennessee. There's discussion about Western Kentucky. I throw Liberty out there. I'm just going to manifest that right now. More reporting on what happened in the meeting with Sunbelt leaders on Tuesday. And, of course, coming no surprise from Shane Mettlen from the Daily News Record. Membership got together to discuss what's next after Texas State announced its departure for the Pac-12. So sources are telling Shane in his reporting that, quote, I would simply call it a discussion. There was no vote. That is according to his source. Also, he's reporting that, quote, sources said that while Louisiana Tech, Western Kentucky, and others from Conference USA could be options to replace Texas State in 2026, there are some who favor continuing with 13 members for at least a year. Why would they do that? Well, here's the deal. That would allow members to take a slightly larger share of conference revenue. Also sitting back, waiting to see if more dominoes fall. If you stick with 13, here's the problem. Going with 13 right now, you're going to have to change scheduling and conference championship formats without the two 7-team East and West divisions. That is a big deal. How do you do this? How do you make this work? You don't have divisions anymore. Do you take the top two, number one versus number two? That could be two Western Conference teams or Western Division. That could be two Eastern Division teams. How do you make that work with 13? The way it's structured right now, 14 works because 7 and 7. You play 6 in your division, you get 2 crossover, and then, of course, you have 4 games that are non-conference. Would you change your scheduling philosophy up? Would you eliminate a non-conference game and add another conference game so you can spread that out a little bit more? It's an interesting dilemma because of the championship game, and that is, of course, inventory for ESPN, so you can't get rid of the championship game. That's inventory. That's a source of revenue. That's a source of inventory. That's part of your television package. So the championship game is not going away. However, how do you get the two teams to go to the championship game? How do you figure that out? So I'm curious, would you schedule more crossover games? Would there be a designated game that counts for division? Or would you come up with some sort of formula? I'm curious what that would look like, and we will talk about it with you at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You can't have uneven divisions. I think that's probably the first thing that needs to be addressed quickly. You cannot have uneven divisions. What could be the answer, though? Could the answer possibly be bringing in a school from Conference USA and just living with it? Or are you happy with the wait-and-see attitude right now? Would that be the best thing? You just deal with it. You deal with it, and you don't look back. Wait till some of the other dominoes fall. And with that being said, with football, it's going to be a little difficult to figure this out because Louisiana, Arkansas State, Texas State, obviously out, was the third best team in the West Division. South Alabama, ULM, Troy, Southern Miss. I don't see where you create a crossover because already you're taking on two teams. You've got two teams that you'll play from the West Division. How do you make this fair? How do you make this something that you can live with 13 teams? Because what's fair about it now is Marshall won its division. Marshall won the division. So Marshall won the East and got to go to the championship game. Louisiana won the West and got to go to the championship game. And so now you have a situation where you're going to have unbalanced divisions because 7-1 and 7-1. Those are the two best teams conference record-wise. But is it fair now? What if you have unbalanced schedule and you have two teams that are 7-1 and by chance, because maybe you didn't have those teams meet, you have a third team and then you go to winning percentage? How do you figure that out? How do you go head to head? Well, what there isn't a head to head tiebreaker. Those are the things that are going to be I think a small headache for the Sun Belt. But on the flip side, you have an opportunity for, at least right now, some increased revenue. But how substantial is that increased revenue coming from 13 shares instead of 14 shares? How much more substantial would that be? Or do you look at it from the standpoint that, okay, it's better now we just sit back and wait, and we figure this out after we know if there are going to be some more teams that will be available? Or do you have a scheduling alliance? I don't know. Would that work? Is there a scheduling alliance you can make something work here in the future? I don't know if you could figure out a scheduling alliance. Would you be able to schedule with the MAC? It's like, hey, look, okay, we want to have some crossover games here. Or could you schedule with independents? There are not that many left. I don't think Notre Dame's going to bail you out. Or would you just rather see a all-in-one schedule? Not everyone plays everyone, and the best two records get to meet for the championship. That's how it works, right? Just take the two best records. Let the chips fall where they may. And if there is a situation where we've got three schools in a similar situation record-wise, we got to figure out the tiebreaker there. Hey, you might lose by a coin flip. So that's going to be the big challenge, at least right now. What do you do schedule-wise? How do you make 13 work? Should you make 13 work? Or do you go ahead and pull the trigger and work this out here the next couple of weeks, find a way to make that invite, pick someone up. Or, I mean, you probably couldn't do a. Would you look at the FCS ranks? Other leagues have done it. Marshall came from them 1AA. Would you look at those schools and those programs? And if you're looking at some of those schools, which school would be able to make the jump? And I'm looking right now and thinking, once upon a time, Youngstown State would have been perfect once upon a time. I don't know if that's still the case. I don't think we're going to see Eastern Kentucky make that jump, but we're thinking geography here. Am I in the right area here? Chattanooga. Yeah, that would have been a great Marshall rivalry. It was. I just don't know if Chattanooga's ready to make that leap. What about, again, we're looking at schools that are in the FCS. Would you pull a school from, let's say, the best option you got Florida A&M. I don't know if that's gonna fly. East Tennessee State, probably not. Western Carolina, probably not. Furman, probably not. Is there a FCS school that could and forget the Dakotas? That's not happening, not even in the footprint, but that's not going to happen. So we come back to, what about adding a Texas school? We mentioned Stephen F. Austin. What about that? Or do you look at maybe a little bit more Midwest? Not too Midwest. You still want to keep the footprint here. I don't know if we want to go into Arkansas. There's Central Arkansas. There's Arkansas Pine. Don't want to do that. I don't think we want to look at any schools. Alcorn State, Jackson State, no, probably not. Indiana State, probably not. You're looking at some of these other schools. You look into Virginia. Is there someone? Yeah, is there some team that you could look at in Virginia and go, okay, that would make sense? And again, I don't know if that's the way to go. Is there an FCS program in the footprint that would make sense for the Sun Belt? Would that be the best play? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We'll get your text in when we continue on this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
We interrupt this broadcast for breaking news. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim's Steak and Spaghetti now accepts online orders for pickup or delivery. You heard that correctly. Please do not adjust your radio. You can now go online to jimspaghetti.com and order your favorites from Jim's and pick it up or have it delivered right to you. Sauce, spaghetti, haddock, pies, and more. Online at jimspaghetti.com for pickup or delivery. Jim's is now open Sundays 11 to 3. We now return to your regularly scheduled broadcast.
Here's another Kinder Communications Community Chatter. The third annual Dolly Dash, a 5K race for reading, is coming up on August 9th, starting at 9:25 a.m. at Ritter Park in Huntington. This supports the June Harless Center at Marshall University and Dolly Martin's Imagination Library in West Virginia. Go to tristateracer.com/Dolly-2025.
This Kinder Communications Community Chatter brought to you by GoMart. Go for good times. Go for GoMart.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night.
Perfect. I love my job.
Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Thank you, Dave. Don't forget, coming up tomorrow, it will be Metro News Talk Line. Dave Wilson, TJ Meadows will take all your phone calls, and it is Friday, so there will be Steam Release. That's coming up tomorrow right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says, Paul, why not Eastern Kentucky? Would be a great move for Eastern Kentucky to jump into the Sun Belt. I agree. I appreciate the text. It would be a great move. Eastern Kentucky was a name back in the day. It could have early on made the jump into then Division I, now FBS. It could have made that jump. Would it make sense now for Eastern Kentucky to make that jump and go into a league like the Sun Belt? And would the Sun Belt get much value for Eastern Kentucky? Let's weigh this. Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky. Which one gives you more value? I'm going to go with the Hilltoppers in Western Kentucky. You already have a few built-in rivalries. You also have a program that has been athletically successful across the board. And I think it's been more successful than Louisiana Tech. Football definitely would be powering that. So if I was looking at expanding, Western Kentucky would probably be my target over another Louisiana school. You would get Kentucky. And if you're looking at which brands are the biggest in the state of Kentucky, obviously UK, then you have to look at Louisville. And I think the third brand in Kentucky would be Western Kentucky. I don't think there's a third brand other than Western Kentucky. I'm not going to say that Murray State or Morehead State, would be more popular. I mean, I like Morehead State, and we're talking football here. I just don't see Western Kentucky being the one you would pass up for an Eastern Kentucky, but it might come down to that. Could you pull up Eastern Kentucky? And of course, Eastern Kentucky would have to make that transition. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says, Paul, I don't think it's smart to play with 13 teams. That was a text. Appreciate it. Okay, that was a short text. But 13 teams, you get more revenue. 14 teams, you get balanced divisions. Or you go to 16. What if you go to 16? Of course, that's going to depend on what the American looks like in the next few years. Will the American look like what it is now in the next few years? And I don't know if, to be honest with you, I don't know that if there's going to be any expansion, it's going to break that league up. Which brands would get cherry-picked from the American? If you're looking at football, which brands go? Army's not going anywhere. I don't think so. Navy's not going anywhere. So, no Army, no Navy. Memphis is looked at for different leagues, or Memphis is looking to get out of the American and go to a bigger league. Would you expand your Texas footprint if you're the Pac-12? Would you try to expand your Texas footprint a little bit more? And that means North Texas, that means Rice, that means UTSA. And so would you see Memphis leaving and then a couple other teams leaving, then East Carolina is saying, look, this isn't the league, we want to go somewhere else? Or would the American be the one that starts to pull away from the other groups, the other conferences, by starting to cherry pick? That's going to be the interesting question here. How do you figure this out? And they've got 14 teams right now. There are no divisions in football. Football is different than, and that's the thing. The Sun Belt stuck with its divisions, touted its geography. And so now does that open it up for Marshall to play out west a little bit more? I know we're not talking Texas anymore, but does that open it up? Go, okay, we're not taking on the same East Division foes year in and year out. So all of a sudden, could you see Marshall traveling more? And let's look at the West Division right now. Louisiana, you can see Marshall traveling to Louisiana more, Marshall traveling to Arkansas State more, in a 13-team football league. You would see Marshall possibly traveling to South Alabama more, ULM, Marshall traveling more to ULM, Troy, Southern Miss. As it stands now, you get a couple of crossover games, but if you want to make this truly a divisionless league, then you don't have the guarantee of playing Georgia State, Georgia Southern, James Madison, Old Dominion, App State, Coastal Carolina. That's what makes this work right now in this East Division. It's because you've built up some rivalries here. You've built up, I think, a really good division. Georgia State, I know, went 1-7 in conference. Don't sleep on Georgia State. App State had a down year, 3-5 in conference. Coastal, 3-5. I look for that to change. Old Dominion, James Madison, both 4-4. I don't look for James Madison to be down. I think Old Dominion has potential. Georgia Southern's going to Georgia Southern. And, of course, there's Marshall. If Marshall wouldn't have dropped that game against Georgia Southern, we wouldn't have had the drama. There are opportunities here for the Sun Belt. It just has to figure out what it wants to do, where it wants to go, and is the quick fix the best answer? Grab a team. And again, Louisiana Tech seems to be the one that comes up more and more, but I don't think you're going to necessarily have consensus right now because in this day and age, it's all about money. It was before, but it's even more so now. I saw something about tickets. There used to be complimentary tickets for people that went to the University of Kentucky, I guess, for family or for employees, and that's going to get phased out. And every ticket's it's going to be like the NFL. Every ticket's going to have $1 attached to it. There's not going to be the complimentary tickets anymore, or the complimentary tickets for spouses or employees. Every ticket's going to have $1 attached to it. That's how the NFL works. That's how college football is now going to work. College athletics in general, everything is going to have a price. So athletic departments will have to start being a little bit more stingy with those comp tickets. And I would honestly not be surprised if that doesn't happen sooner than later at Marshall University. Yeah, there's going to have to be dollar amounts attached to everything. So how does that work? Yeah, do you alienate some of your employees, or do you alienate people that have benefited from that in the past? And I'm not talking about Marshall just giving out hand over fist, but everything's going to have $1 attached to it. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We're going to wrap this one up with you when we continue. Our text line's still open here on The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Heard what you're craving and is here to satisfy your appetite for value. Introducing the All Mine for $10.99 menu for a limited time only at the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe. Enjoy bottomless Fiesta Bravo chips and salsa, your choice of a chicken sandwich, or a Hall of Fame cheeseburger, fries, and a drink for only $10.99.
All that for $10.99?
No, All Mine for $10.99. No rules, any day, anytime. All Mine for only $10.99 from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe on the corner of Fun and 3rd Avenue in downtown Huntington. Big flavors, big savings, and top-notch quality only at Food Fair. We're bringing you the brands you love, plus exciting new exclusives. Try Springer Mountain Farms chicken, humanely raised and antibiotic-free. Stock up on Food Club for quality meals at a great value. Crush cravings with Craven flavor snacks, pizzas, and sweet treats. From family dinners to late-night snacks, Food Fair has you covered without breaking the bank. Visit foodfairmarkets.com today. Food Fair, delightfully local, deliciously fresh.
Saving money now on siding at Menards. Update and beautify your home with your choice of 13 timeless colors of pre-finished LP SmartSide engineered siding. It's durable and includes a Sherwin-Williams machine-applied paint warranty that means no painting for years to come. Save big money today on all LP SmartSide products. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night.
Perfect. I love my job.
Oak tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Well, I finally did it. I opened a 401k.
What? Why? Just wait for the inheritance. We've definitely got a rich uncle somewhere. We're one call away from the winner's circle at the Derby, dinners with multiple forks, a vacation home in the country, using summer as a verb.
You don't actually think that, do you?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Final segment for this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930, but there's still plenty of time for you to get your text in this hour, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Baseball action. Bluefield got the better of Tri-State last night, 6-5. Series wraps up tonight, 6:30 at Bluefield's Bowen Field. Pirates got the win against the Cardinals, 6-0 Bucks. Didn't allow a run to St. Louis in the three-game series sweep. Pirates are off tonight. Reds got the win over the Red Sox, 8-4, but the suspended game lost 5-3. And then the Cubs got the win over the Guardians, 5-4. Series wrap up tonight, 8:05 at Wrigley Field. And then, of course, we got the soccer schedule yesterday for the men. There are several home games. You have Virginia Tech, Kentucky, 11 home games total for the Herd. And the Derby that we all wait for, the Mountain State Derby against WVU, taking place on October 31st in Morgantown. One item from the promotional side of Marshall Athletics, free from fees. That's right. The season ticket promotion has begun. If you have not got your season tickets just yet, from now until July 6th, if you use the promo code FREE, you can get season tickets at herdzone.com. So if you haven't got those yet and you decided that you might want to go, you can be safe from fees. Fee-free is what they like to call it. So there you have it. Again, I don't know who hasn't got their season tickets by this point. Do you sit back and wait? I mean, who are you? If you don't have you want season tickets and you don't have those yet, who are you? I would think that the season tickets would be pretty much, I don't know. You just wake up one day, I think I'm going to get season tickets. We're going to see the Herd. You've got less than 60 days to go here. What are you waiting for? Absolutely. What are you waiting for on that? Well, you can save yourself a few dollars. The fees won't be charged if you use the promo code FREE. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255 is our text line to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We've been trying to figure out where the league should go, the Sun Belt should go, and trying to bring this league back to 14. And I'm not sure if the FCS level is the way to go. I've been trying to just go over my head. Is there a team? There's always a team that wants to move up. Is there a team that could make that move and add some value to the Sun Belt? Now, we have to look away from the Dakotas because North Dakota State, and South Dakota State, the Dakotas aren't going anywhere. Not anywhere at all. And of course, you can't go too far. It would not make sense to pull any team out of the West Coast. You want to stay on this side of the Mississippi, I would think. Or at least you want to stay close. You want to stay out of Louisiana. There are plenty of schools in Louisiana. You want to stay out of Louisiana. Arkansas, I don't think Central Arkansas is going to do it for you. I don't think there's anyone in Missouri that you could pull from. Illinois, again, I don't know if there's a really strong candidate there. That's why I came back to Eastern Kentucky. Would Eastern Kentucky be? Could you? But then again, you're missing the boat on Western Kentucky, and then you have teams like Tennessee Tech, Tennessee State, East Tennessee State, Chattanooga. Chattanooga might have been a good pull years ago. I don't think so now. And then you have schools like Furman, South Carolina State, Wofford, the Citadel. I don't think those add to the profile of the Sun Belt. Is there a school? Am I missing something? Is there a program that you could pull from and elevate into FBS and pull into the league that would give you 14 and maybe give you some serious value? Because I don't see it right now. I don't see anything expansion-wise, and you don't want to go too far north. You don't want to go too far. So that's going to leave out a lot of schools. Sorry, Marshall, Holy Cross, not happening. Be interesting, but no. I just throw that out as an absurd. Stony Brook, no, that's not happening. New Hampshire, we're not seeing that rematch. I mean, it was a heck of a first game to open up the then Marshall Football Stadium. It was a heck of a first game, absolutely, and there was some history and some connection between the two. I don't know if I'm tempted. I don't have a prize for you, but I'm tempted to ask, do you know that connection? Maybe I'll save your names for something in the future. I don't have a prize, but do you know that connection between Marshall and New Hampshire? Sure you do. I know you do. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texture says, Paul, Vanderbilt is another Tennessee program. Do you think Vanderbilt, would you put money on Vanderbilt in the Sun Belt? Would you? I like where you're going with that, but would you put money on Vanderbilt in the Sun Belt? I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's an interesting thought. I'd rather steal Wake Forest, and that's not going to happen. And we are looking at this maybe from the standpoint that the Sun Belt's going to be the one picking teams off. Would the American have enough stroke to pick off more teams than the Sun Belt can pick off? And do you want to be in a conference? Now, if East Carolina is there, yes. But do you want to be in a conference that has FAU, North Texas, Rice, Charlotte, UTSA? I mean, South Florida would be nice. But half these teams are schools that I don't think anyone really missed when leaving Conference USA. How many of you missed Florida Atlantic? How many of you miss Rice or North Texas or UTSA? I don't think you do. Charlotte. UAB's the only one. And would UAB make that move into the Sun Belt? Again, this is going to depend on what the American looks like here. It might be more advantageous for conference to leadership just to say, okay, we're going to roll with 13 right now, and we're going to cross our fingers that something else happens that pulls teams away, and the American is probably the most likely victim in all of this. Because if Memphis gets a good enough deal, it's jumping. Do you take a UAB? Do you pull away a Tulsa? Do you pull away a Tulane? And I think right now Tulane and Memphis probably make the most sense. Will Tulane continue to have its football success? I don't know. But can you pull away a Tulane and a Memphis, and then this thing is down to 12? Where's the anchor now? Where's the anchor in the American? Army, Navy. And Army and Navy can go anywhere. Could you possibly pull away Army, Navy, and East Carolina? That's where I would go. If I had unlimited resources, I would cherry pick. That's if Memphis and Tulane left. I would, at 13 now, I would pull in East Carolina. That would make it 14. And then if I could get really lucky, I would pull in Army and Navy. Make it 16. I know that doesn't kind of fit the whole Sunbelt vibe. But at the same time, it'd be a heck of a football conference. But I'd be happy with East Carolina. All right. I think we've had enough of our conference gymnastics today. We're going to be back with you on Monday. Fresh new week. Looking forward to it. Have a great and safe Independence Day weekend. And I will talk to you soon. Good night, everyone.
Broadcasting from the Dave & Buster's studios. Eat, drink, play, and watch at Dave & Buster's in the Huntington Mall. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WRBC, W231BS Huntington.